As the Palestinian genocide continues, I keep hearing people say that they don't know enough about the issue, that they're not educated on the history. And while I understand that sentiment, when it's something this important, we need people who know what they're talking about. When it's this divisive, when there's accusations of genocide, accusations which I very much believe to be true, we need educated people. And on the other hand, when we're talking about genocide that's actively going on in the world, there are very few legitimate excuses, I think, for why you don't have at least a basic understanding of what's going on. So that's why I've compiled a very short list of a few YouTube videos and book recommendations for anyone who wants to know a little bit more of the history, both what is happening right now today, as well as what has been happening for hundreds, and for a couple of the books, thousands of years. So my first recommendation is going to be a couple of Noah Samsen videos. First of all, Israel's Starvation Massacres. This is just outlining how Israel is creating a man-made famine in Gaza right now. It's 36 minutes long, and if you watch this and don't find yourself needing a ceasefire, I don't know what to say to you. Another one that he did a couple months back, Genocide Denial Streamers, which is 44 minutes long, is basically just looking at some of the arguments that pro-Zionist people are making to defend the massive death total, which is now well over 30,000, about 15,000 of which being children. Both of these videos alone should be enough for you to want to demand a ceasefire. There's also Some More News put out a video a while ago called All the Terrible Arguments Used to Justify Genocide. It's an hour and 18 minutes. And it's just what the title says. It's just debunking a whole bunch of different arguments that pro-Zionists are making. Lastly, in terms of current events, we have Doctors Without Borders press conference that they did today, specifically on Gaza. It's about 2 hours long. You don't necessarily need to watch the whole thing. It's just a whole bunch of doctors detailing the horrific scene that is Gaza right now. Every single hospital in Gaza has been bombed. People are dying at exorbitant rates that is unjustifiable. And these doctors are calling for a ceasefire. With that, I'm going to go into the history a little bit more. The only video I'm going to recommend in terms of history is one that Vox put out several years ago called How Palestinians Were Expelled from Their Homes. It's 16 minutes long, and it's detailing what the Palestinians call the Nakba, or catastrophe, where 750,000 Palestinians were displaced from their homes, and their homes were destroyed so they couldn't come back. And a whole bunch of civilians were massacred during that event. In terms of books that I'm going to recommend, the first one is the one that I'm reading right now and I'm almost done with, is The 100 Years' War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. In this book, it's just a general overview of the history from about 1899 to 2017, and he is personally involved in the story. His father, his grandfather, and I think his great-grandfather too, were all very prominent figures in the Palestinian community. His father was part of the UN panel, and it's a very personal history. he makes no attempts to be unbiased. You know, he is a Palestinian. He has been personally affected by this. They're his people. I've seen some criticisms of it, people saying how he leaves out certain facts, specifically about the, I don't remember the name of the war, but the 1967 conflict, where Egypt and Syria both committed atrocities against Israeli soldiers who had surrendered. And while I can kind of understand leaving that out because it wasn't the Palestinians who did it, it wasn't directly involving them, it would have been good for him to include it, I think. But other than that small nitpick, I do believe that it is a fantastic reference for everything that has gone on over the past 100 years. And this book alone should give you enough information to have a pretty confident take on it. Also, the next book that I'm going to start reading is Justice for Some. This one is specifically looking at the use of international law throughout history, through the various declarations. I have a basic understanding of it from Rashid Khalidi's book, but this one is going to go into a lot more detail with how exactly the law was used strategically to bolster the Israeli cause. There's also the Israel-Palestinian conflict, What Everyone Needs to Know by Waxman, written in 2019. I've heard that this one is particularly unbiased. When I was looking at reviews for this one, all of the low reviews were pretty evenly divided between people saying that it was too pro-Palestine and too pro-Israel from different people. So if you want a more unbiased view, it sounds like this is the one that you should look into. We also have A History of False Hope, Investigative Commissions in Palestine by Laurie Allen, written in 2020. This book looks at how the Palestinians were constantly given hope in some form of new law or new mandate, new declaration, and how ultimately time after time that was always stripped away from them, or it turned out not to be true. How people have acted like they were on their side and then ultimately hung them out to dry. There's also The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, written by Ilan Pappe. I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry, written in 2007. This book looks at Israel's goal of getting rid of the Palestinians, ethnically cleansing them. It focuses a lot on the Nakba, which again is the expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians and the massacre of civilians during that and the destruction of their homes. I've heard that this one is a particularly brutal read, so be warned, but it is what it is. And there's also Palestine, A 4,000-Year History by Noura Masalha. Again, I'm probably butchering that, but that was written in 2021. And as the title suggests, it's a broader look at the history going all the way back to the Stone Age. And this one dispels the myth that the Palestinians are a modern invention. So the last book that I have on my list is Except for Palestine, The Limits of Progressive Politics by Marc Lamont Hill and Mitchell Plinick, written in 2021. This one is looking at how progressives and liberals in the United States basically need to extend their principles of issues that are domestic to foreign issues too. How the issues in Palestine relate directly to us in form of principles. If you're not standing with the Palestinians, you're not really standing for progressive values in general. You don't need to watch all of these videos or read all of these books. Honestly, just the 100 Years War on Palestine so far, I think has equipped me pretty well for being able to talk about the issue in general. I really do believe that as of today, at least, this is the most pressing issue that the world is facing. We are witnessing a genocide happening. As of April 4th, we are doing nothing. 7 aid workers were just killed a couple days ago by an Israeli drone strike. And so far, nothing is changing. Over 30,000 civilians dead. Nothing is changing. Like, even if you are pro-Israel, like, how can you not recognize this for what it is? The tactics are brutal, and they need to stop. If you have any recommendations for other videos or books that people should read to educate themselves on the topic, go ahead and leave them down below. And with that, hopefully I'll see you in a less heavy video. Hopefully the world gets a little bit better.